at this juncture, something's got to give. I'm sorry.
So, Tastemakers.
Class. We do more than make a living, we make a life. When everything is dark, we are the light. We are the tastemakers, alright. Let tomorrow tell the stories that we make tonight. We do more than make a living.
Let's get up out of here. What we're looking at, of course, Tony Evans taking a step down. I don't know if it's been any further cleared up to actually what that was there. Of course, we're looking at Robert Morris and everything that happened there. Funny as you see, even Carl Lentz kind of coming back on the scene, but we know what happened with Carl 3-4 years ago. You just hear it over and over and over again, and I guess the question that's actually on the topic sheet is more so like, how has the culture got us here? But we can answer that question, or we can just talk in general, like, what do we make as Christian people when we see all this kind of happening? What do we really make of it all? And I'll go ahead and start with Lost and Found.
What do we make? I think it's just for one, it's a reminder to look at yourself, check your own life. For one, secret sins and different areas that you have a potential to fall in. Remembering that these people is human, so you know better that you can absolutely fall in those same areas, depending on boundaries that are set up or not set up at all. I think the biggest takeaway right now for me is these folks is human. And then I think also as far as boundaries, like what do we have set up because these are pastors in the church? Do you have elders that is keeping people accountable? Does that pastor have other people that they can go to that can check them? You know what I mean? And I think what's happening, it seems like either people, especially the Robert Morris thing, I'm just learning about it, just hearing about it today. But if this stuff was happening years ago, there's nobody who knows about this stuff that's happening. Are you doing such a great job, hiding it, and nobody knows? You know what I mean? So I think, it does, for me at least, point back to self. Because once again, I was one of those people, even just probably even with Carl Lentz, you mentioned Carl Lentz. When that whole thing happened, I was very harsh. And I was in the camp back then that, once you are disqualified, quote unquote, as a pastor, ain't no coming back. To where now I've kind of softened up, and now I watched his podcast, and I love seeing the redemption story there. Love seeing that the Lord can still use him, even outside of pastoring, and he says he has no plan of going back. But I don't know. I think it's not the end. I do question: are we looking at Scripture when we're looking at our leaders? Are we looking at 1 Timothy 3 and looking at what qualifies a person to be a leader? I think I do. If I provide any type of criticism, I do think as a church that we're kind of light on that, because I think that's one of the scriptures that are very clear, and people will be like, it's not wrong in my book, so I'm good with this person. So,
Bree and Bree.
Just thinking about the two latest names that we've heard about stepping down, or just any kind of scandalous behavior. One name, some people might say, oh well, I figured, I'm not surprised, and the other, everybody was completely shocked. I think anybody is vulnerable to fall in sin. Like that's number one, regardless of what your doctrinal beliefs are, what denomination you're a part of. Satan is going to tempt anybody he can, and more specifically, anyone who's in a leadership position, any preachers. His goal is going to be to discredit them first and try to get them to fall. Like that's the ultimate piece of this, which is why we should always be praying for anybody in leadership, any pastors, preachers, that sort of thing. But that still doesn't take away from their responsibility. And even just thinking about this whole situation with Robert Morris, I've been familiar with his ministry for a long time. And I've always heard him talk about like his moral failure in the pulpit, but he always made it seem like it was just an extramarital affair. He never said anything about a child.
Transparency versus nakedness. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, sometimes people are gonna try to hide, and I think at the end of the day, of course, God knows the real story, so He's gonna know how repentant that person really is, and whether or not they've truly, if they're trying to just cover themselves, or if they're truly remorseful and sorry for what they've done. I think that it's sad to see, but we're seeing all of this stuff going on. Anybody can get got, and I think that
Literally,
it's even more, like Lost and Found said, we have to constantly examine ourselves, and make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, because your sin will find you out. And I think sometimes getting in that mode is real easy to forget. But that can happen. I hate to see these things happen, but yeah, it's embarrassing for this stuff to come out, but hopefully whenever we have topics like this, I just hope that these folks really, if they hadn't repented before, that they take that time away and do that now. So that's what I think.
Trisha?
yeah. I mean, I don't know that I can add anything new that hasn't already been said, but yeah, definitely we need to pray more, and to not put people on pedestals. I think that's something I've learned from being a part of a church where there was a lot of scandal, and putting these particular people on a pedestal, and just putting them high on that pedestal. And when they fell, it was like literal, like it was traumatic. It was traumatic for not just me, but for a lot of people in not just our church, but in a whole community, in the CHH community. It hurt so many of us. And to have like the firsthand, experience that hurt. I think that was a hard lesson we all learned during that season, because none of us are exempt, like I already said. And also, I think, like Lost and Found said, it's like, yo, like, who is holding y'all accountable? Like, who's getting in y'all's business? Like, that for me. And I think it also comes to the structure of the church, and how, because every church is different. We have these different denominations, and everybody has a different structure, and some people are congregational led, and some people are, the elder led, and it's all different. And I think that we have to, something's gotta give. At this juncture, something's gotta give. I'm sorry.
So, no. And I feel you on that. As you talk about different ways that different things happen, I think the only thing I could say to push back against what you're saying, though, Trish, on that though, is it seems like people are falling in all of these systems.
I
Whether it's
know.
the elder
Well,
led, congregational led, the pastor led, like they're falling in all of these systems. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, sure. I think you're right. Because we're human and people will find ways around it. You know what I'm saying? Like sin, if you deep in your sin, you gonna figure out a way around it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's if you want to keep doing it, right? And that's just the way human beings are. Like that's just how we can be. But I still feel like even with the Tony Evans situation, right? Um, although we don't know the depths,
We have no
we only
clue.
know
All we know
we
that
have
it was not whatever he did was not illegal. That's all we know.
Right.
right. But I do appreciate the structure that is in place, and based on that structure, it wasn't necessarily, well, I don't know because I'm not there. But what it seems like there was a structure in place that said, "Hey, we've been following this, and with much prayer, we've been trying to deal with this situation in the background, and this is the decision that we have come to. Now, somebody else is stepping up. He's sitting down. Okay, so we have this thing in place. Like there is a structure there. With the other dude, it's looking like there have been many balls dropped because now we have minimized this actual sin issue, and made it seem like it was one thing when it's actually something totally different. Now that to me is something that's a whole nother conversation.
Low key
Because
deceptive.
oh, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure, for sure. Um, that's weird to me. That whole thing is weird to me. Like how you a whole grown man with a wife and kid, and you're literally messing with a kid. Like, what we doing? What we talking about? And you didn't say any of that. And y'all are trying to put this man back up in ministry. Like, that's a whole get him out of there. For me, it's get him out of there.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about. You're talking about overall, right? Overall in general. But I think there are so many cases like that too that have happened that have split the church because the elders knew what was going on, but wasn't saying anything because they didn't want to embarrass this leader because it's such a huge thing. Similar thing happened with
Johnny Mac.
not Johnny Mac, but yes, that's not who I was thinking about. It's the
Mark.
not Mark, but there's
Um,
Joshua Harris's church. That whole what was the pastor's name? I don't even remember his name. They were hiding a situation. One of the elders had an issue with a kid. It was a sexual assault situation. That whole thing was a mess because the leaders knew and didn't say nothing. But I'm saying this is happening. This keeps happening. So what do we do?
Anything that comes out with kids as church leadership, when it comes out, everybody don't need to know, but you gotta go to the police. You've got to go to the police. You have to allow an investigation of sorts. Maybe the congregation doesn't know. Maybe the world doesn't know. But the authorities have to be brought in. At the very least. At the very least, the authorities have to be brought in to do an open book investigation and see what they can find or whatever the case may be. It just has to happen. So, and I'm not a, you know, and we don't talk about this a lot, but I'm not a big cop guy. I'm not a big go to the cop guy. You know what I'm saying? But in an organization of stuff like that, I mean, like you've got to take that to police. There's really,
Absolutely.
I mean, listen, I ain't trying to out you. We still might be trying to understand or maybe even protect you, but we're gonna do this with a third party. That third party being the local sheriff's office or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Period.
That's just kind of what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And there is a certain thing as protecting and covering and whatever the case may be that does exist. Okay, but even you just got to do it the right way. You got to do it the right way. And on certain things, the authorities have to be brought in. If it could be possibly illegal, or you know, the authorities have to be in. I mean, if you're gonna deal with something like, an affair or something like that, you've got to really find out what this, you gotta talk to both. You have to make sure the spouse is being heard in this situation, what they want. It's just this way. Because that one you obviously don't have to go to the cops for, right? But you just have to be able to pull cards. Let's about the whole situation, right? I'll start this by saying there's a church on every corner, and I still would say that majority pastors are leaving a life of integrity, trying to follow the call that God has put on their life, and most of them are bivocational, and you know what I mean? They too tired to cheat. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to say, or to do whatever the case may be. My point is, there's still probably way more good than there is the bad that we're seeing. And then, of course, we're seeing the quote-unquote, the shortcomings of big platformed preachers, and you just kind of worry. You kind of say things like glory can't be on man's shoulders. You know what I mean? Like, we can't deify men.
Yeah.
We can't put that. We just can't do it. Like, if you lose your relationship, and I'm not trying to try. I know there's church hurt, so I'm not trying to say this to be harsh. But if you lose your relationship with God based on what a man did, your eyes were shifted.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Your eyes were shifted. So we can't give glory to these people. We can give honor to these people, respect to these people. You feel what I'm saying? I don't gotta like you to give you honor. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't gotta like you. You could be a baby mama. Your dad could never, your baby's father is never showing up or whatever the case may be, and you could still be like, hey, it's Father's Day. I need you to send your father a happy Father's Day. It's just honor and respect. Right. You could not like them or whatever the case may be. I'm just saying, honor we give these people. Respect we give these people. We can't give these jokers glory. We can barely give them praise. But we definitely can't give them glory. And the minute we do, and the minute they fall, and the minute now it shifts our whole relationship with the faith and with God and whatever the case may be, our eyes were in the wrong place.
Yeah.
What lurks in a man's soul it's kind of messed up. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of messed up. And when you have, what is it? Access to access? What is it? What is the phrase I'm looking for? Access to access. Access, yes, yeah. It can get quite dangerous if you don't have borders around you, if you don't have that accountability around you. And here's the thing about accountability, right? A lot of times, I think even Trisha was just saying, a lot of times with accountability, we make it like who is up in your business. But really, it's who are you allowing to be up in your business? Because if I don't live with you, how up in your business can I really be? You feel what I'm saying? But as to be accountable to someone is to constantly be open to them. Hey, I got this going on, this going on, this going on. Going here, da, 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 da. I'm presenting myself as accountable to you. And so, yes. And I apologize. Kyle makes a good point there. Just for clarity, when I say what lurks in a man's soul, I was saying that as a plurality type situation, male and female. Though, because man has been platformed for so long, we have seen what happens when it just gets out of whack. You know what I mean? I've been saved for a long time, and I can look at some things that I did in my 20s, in my late 20s, late 20s, and just things that just were not 100% integral. You feel what I'm saying? They were not. Won't trying to hurt nobody. Might have just had a need that ended up being greater than what I could see. And maybe I did dip my hand into that. You feel what I'm saying? I had access to it. You feel what I'm saying? And I had a need. And I served, and I've done so very much. People will justify the littlest of things when their backs are against the wall.
It's real.
And because of that, you have to have checks and balances. You gotta have accountability. Um, just little stuff, just unintegral stuff that happens. I'll never forget one of my best of friends gave me some dough to put on a show. Just gave me some dough to kind of partner with the show, with a show or whatever the case may be. And this is probably only about 8 years ago. And at the end of the joint, I'm taking care of everything, had a need, and I didn't get the other portion that belonged to them back to them. You know what I'm saying? And really just on some, well, you my guy and you got it, like you got dough. You feel what I'm saying? And you always had dough and you don't need this. And my back's up against the wall. Just unintegral.
Yeah.
And these kind of decisions are made all the time. You've got to have checks and balances.
Yeah.
You've got to have accountability. You've got to have borders. And I think that's what a wise man knows.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So I didn't know that in my 20s. And most people would look at me and said, man, for a 20-year-old, you're a pretty integral Christian guy, yada, 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 boom, 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 saving yourself for marriage and all this jazz. But we all have our shortcomings and our things. You know what I'm saying? And so, like I said, in my early 40s, as I am now, if I ever was, to have any kind of, I just, checks and balances. That's the best I could say. I'll put borders up around myself. You got to be overly, outwardly making sure to be above reproach. Yeah. This has to be an active thing.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? And so, and that's what it is, because the littlest of things can make you think there's an emergency and now you're doing something you ain't got no business doing. Okay, things ain't working at home like you wanted to be. You and your spouse is going through a rough season, but here you are, a preacher on a mic with all these women singing your praises, giving you glory. It's so easy to be whack. Do you understand? It's so easy to be whack. And so for these guys to have these huge platforms and to give in to certain sins, listen, you got to have the checks and balances. You got to have the elders around you. You got to have people who can tell you no around you. You've got to. And the minute you don't, you taking an L. Like literally, Scripture says, Satan is literally walking back and forth, looking to see who he can devour, who can sift like wheat.
Yeah.
Just waiting.
Yeah.
Waiting to see. And so, it's my heart goes out to these gentlemen in general. My heart goes out to any victims in the situations. And I would just hope we remember that there's so many more pastors being integral, honoring their spouses, being integral with finances, and whatever the case may be, than there are these different shortcomings and things that we see. And everything has a bias, because let's be real, guys. We all love Tony Evans.
Of course.
Let's be real. Yeah. We all love Tony Evans. And if we have to be extremely honest, of course, none of us know what happened. None of us really know. But we have to admit that we have given grace to Tony that we have not given grace to others. And maybe justly deserved, right? You kept clean for so long. You've been so solid. You've been so, but I don't know. I don't know. And then let me ask you, is it unrealistic? Is it unrealistic, and then we'll get out of here, to not think, of course, above reproach. Of course, if you're a teacher, you have to do better and be held to a better standard. Is it unrealistic to think that we won't sin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely unrealistic. We are human.
Those are exactly the people that do.
That part. Because what did the Bible say? What did the word say? In this flesh lies what? What's inside us? Not one good thing. So we absolutely need the Holy Spirit. And first of all, Jesus died for all the sinful things that are inside of us, right? And he already knew, like he knows we're going to sin against him. That which is why he died. So I think it is very unrealistic for anyone to think, oh, you will not sin. We're going to sin on a regular basis. And so I think there are, there are levels and degrees, right? There are levels and degrees. There are levels.
But at the end of the day, the wages of sin is death, right? So all sin is leading to death minus Christ, right? And Christ's blood, so I just think it's interesting. I was listening to something this weekend, and like Jesus literally says, listen, you're talking about being a good father, right? And if you would give your children, whatever, you wouldn't give them a stone. You being evil, Jesus says this. You being evil wouldn't.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Sure. How much more would I and my, like you being evil, like we can never get too cocky in our own flesh.
Period.
We can never do that. You got to be very careful. And again, to be accountable is to be open. It's to make yourself accountable too. It ain't for somebody to be knocking on your door every day. It's for you to be checking in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You to be checking in. You to letting people know when things don't seem right. Something's off. Something ain't right. Having these thoughts.
Yeah.
Because everything starts as a thought, right?
It sure does. It sure does.
Yep.
Casting down imaginations. Well, I can't cast down this.
Yeah.
Need some help. Need some therapy. Need some friends. But you have to reveal this. Ain't nobody reading your mind.
Got to. That's why it's important to have that community and be willing to put yourself out there and be like, yo, I'm struggling with this. I need prayer. Somebody pray for me. Like, listen, Destiny is my best friend who knows literally everything. When I tell you everything, she knows everything. Like from when I was 13 wilding. Okay. We was both wilding. She know everything about me. All right. And I can tell her anything, you know what I'm saying? And she's not going to look at me while she's going to be like, let's pray. Or she's going to be like, nah, you wilding. Like, now I know you know better. Like she's going to check me and I can check her. It's like, it's vice versa. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you need people like that in your life.
You've got to it's a necessity that you have these people in your life. And if you don't have these people in your life, I beseech you, please find people that you can trust, be transparent with, and that you could just present things to. Like, listen, man, just don't feel right. What are your thoughts? What is God saying to you concerning this situation? Hey, can you pray about this? Holla at me. Let me know. For real. And I just thank God for having people around me like that. I thank God for that.
Same.
I really thank God for that. People I could just submit weird thoughts and anything to. Like, what the heck is this?
Yeah. Like, why is this even coming up? Like, this is not even a thing for me. I don't even know why this is coming up. Like,
it's coming up. Yes. Right. And again, if you don't have friends who you can bring this to, go ahead and pay for a friend. Get yourself a therapist. You feel what I'm saying? Like,
a Christian therapist.
Pay a friend.
A Christian
preferably, yes.
Is better.
Yes.
Sure.
Indeed.
They're going to lead you to the word of God.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Got to. Listen. So anyway.
Tastemakers. Class. We do more than make a living. We make a life. When everything is dark, we are the light. We are the tastemakers. Aight. Let tomorrow tell the stories that we make tonight. We do more than make a living. We make